Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I thank Essence Pathanamthitta for giving me this opportunity. Today we are talking about chemicals. When we hear about chemicals, there is a public notion that chemicals are really bad, they are explosives, they are flammable, they are really dangerous. And this is the kind of feeling we usually have about chemicals. But in reality, there are so many chemicals which has brought us to this state. There are so many chemicals which have dictated the history, how the mankind has reached at this moment was decided by some chemicals. We can have so many number of episodes for this series actually. We will be just taking one episode today, maybe 2-3 chemicals, how those chemicals have dictated the history. Since we are talking about history, we should start with history actually. So Napoleon was a great emperor. He has done a lot of reforms in his emperorship. Some of the examples are he brought higher education. The most important thing is, of course, civil code. Napoleon's civil code is so famous, and many countries have taken his civil code and modified for making their own civil code later. Then banking system. He has introduced banking system for the first time. Road and sewage system. Then decimal system of weight and measures. So many other things. He was so good. And he has almost conquered all of Europe. And one mistake he has done. Only one mistake. And that led to the debacle of Napoleon Empire. The mistake he has done is to attack Russia. In 1812, he started with 600,000 armymen and he set off to Russia. That was in June 1812. But only 6,000 people came back in the month of December. Rest everybody died in Russia. And that was the debacle, that was the start of debacle of Napoleon Empire. What has happened is, Napoleon's army, it's called Grand Army. They have a peculiar uniform. This is the uniform actually, which I have shown in the screen. So their buttons are made out of tin. Tin is a metal. And the button for their coat. Actually, tin has a property. The property is that it has 2 allotropes. Allotrope means, for example, carbon has 2 allotropes. There are more allotropes for carbon. The most common one is diamond and graphite. You know, diamond is very hard and graphite is very, very soft material. So similarly, tin also has 2 different forms of, 2 different allotropes. So what has happened is, when the temperature drops down, he invaded Russia in June and he came back in December. By December it will be very, very cold in Russia, maybe close to minus 40 degrees centigrade. And what has happened is, I have shown on the screen a piece of tin. You can see while cooling it is going to the other form of metal actually. So it crumbles. The metallic tin crumbles into ash-like material. And the buttons were made out of this tin and they lost their button and it was so cold. Instead of holding the weapons, they had to hold their coat. And they all were killed by this severe cold and also by the enemies. And that was the reason, one of the main reasons for the debacle of Napoleon Empire. So this is a small chemical actually, it's an element, tin. So that has actually dictated. If it was not tin, I would be taking this class in French actually. So now let us come to spices. Spices were so expensive in olden times. I have shown some examples on the screen. Nutmeg. Nutmeg was more expensive than gold. More expensive than gold. And clothes. The dockyard workers in London were paid in clothes actually. So the headload workers for the ship. So they were paid in clothes. If they take one sack, they'll get 2 clothes. So that's how they get paid in clothes actually. And in 410 AD, Visigoths captured Rome. And they have asked for 3,000 pounds of pepper as ransom. So that's only they required. Only 3,000 pounds of pepper is enough to give this Rome back. So this is the importance of pepper those times. And how this pepper reached, not only pepper, the spices reached there. This is through the Silk Road, which I have shown in the screen. Silk Road is actually from China, and it goes through Afghanistan, then Iran, then Iraq, then Syria, Turkey, and that's how it goes to Moscow, then to other parts of Europe actually. This is a really land route. I have shown in the right side corner actually. It's a very difficult terrain. It's a hilly area, and also you have to go through deserts, and it's not easy to reach there. And it takes ages actually to reach some shipment to that place. And the merchants of Venice was very rich because of spice trade. And how it has reached is through this Silk Road. This is called Silk Road, through this land route actually, very, very difficult route. Now, other Europeans were worrying about this actually. So can we get these spices in a better way? All the spices are in India or other Asian countries actually. The most important spice was pepper. Pepper was only in Kerala actually that time. The only place where pepper can grow that time was Kerala. Now it's not the case. Now Vietnam is the largest producer of pepper. That's a different story. But that time, only Kerala is the source of pepper. And this is the Silk Route I have shown here actually, the land route. Then later they have gone through the Red Sea also. This is during 11th century to 13th century, the Crusade period. So coming back to pepper, so they all wanted to come to Kerala in a better way than the Silk Route. So not only Portugal, many other countries tried. The biggest hurdle is Africa. So big, and Good Hope is a very difficult terrain. So many people died at the Good Hope. There was no hope actually in Good Hope. So finally, so you can see the different people. In mid-15th century, somebody has reached Cape Verde. Cape Verde is at north of Africa actually. Northwest actually, you can see where I have marked Cape Verde. So that they have reached in 1483, they have reached Congo River, little south of that. Then Vasco da Gama, before that, Dias reached Cape of Good Hope for the first time. Then Vasco da Gama reached in 1498 to Calicut. He passed through the Good Hope and reached Calicut. Then he went to Cochin, then he went back to Goa and returned back. That's how Vasco da Gama traveled. And after that, whole pepper business was under the control of Portuguese. Portuguese become so rich because now they have better access to reach Kerala because sea access is very easy than going through this difficult terrain. Then Columbus told, he was in Spain that time. He told Queen Isabella and her husband Ferdinand that Earth is globular. So I will go westward instead of going eastward, and I will reach Kerala much easier than Portuguese. Then we will be much rich. So give me some money to make a ship actually. And this Queen and King got convinced, and they paid him some money, funded him actually. This is the first funding for any research actually. So he made a ship which can travel farther distances actually. And he made a mistake, of course. He made a mistake in his calculation. He thought this is the shortest route. Westward travel is shortest to reach to Kerala. That was not the case. That is not the case. He rather found America actually. So in search of India or in search of Kerala he went, but unfortunately he found America. So he found America, not only America, and that region, many countries, and he got several spices from that region also. For example, capsicum, our chili. And then later he come further westward and reached even parts of Asia later. Not him, his successors. So, yeah, these are the travels Columbus has made 4 times actually, 4 times to American region from Spain. In different years I have shown in map. And later they have come up to Philippines, Manila. And they have got several spices. Indonesia, Philippines, that region, they also got several spices. For example, nutmeg is from that region. And if you consider this, lot of movement happened because of this pepper. They were searching for pepper. They went westward and found all this land, new spices. All this happened because of this pepper. What is in that pepper which attracts people? Is it that globular shape? No. Is it that the black color? No. It is this chemical called piperine. Piperine is the one which attracted people actually. The flavor, the taste is given by this chemical called piperine. So piperine established and destroyed empires actually, and led discovery of new continents actually, and laid the foundation of modern world. If you think movement started that because of piperine. Now pepper is no longer a luxury, of course. It's very cheap, but that incredible history is very important and it should remain. Now I come back to another chemical, which is vitamin C. 15th century, people started moving in larger ships actually. Until then we means the globe. People in different parts of the globe were using smaller ships actually, smaller boats. And they usually go through near the shore actually. Always they want to be in the vicinity of the shore. They cannot take mid-sea travels actually. They were not equipped for that. But in 15th century it started actually, long ocean voyages in larger ships. And that time, the food is, of course, these ships are made up of wood and planks. So they can't keep anything dry actually. That wooden plank absorbs water and it will be moldy all the time. And of course, since it is wooden, you can't have fire inside. You can cook actually. So usual food for a sailor is this. Salted beef or pork, or this kind of biscuit which is made out of flour, salt and water. You make a dough and bake it like a rock actually. It's called hardtack. And also military people used to get this kind of food that time. This hardtack is very difficult to chew. It's so hard actually. It's like rock. So they used to like this weevil infested hardtack. So weevil, right? The weevil which, the bug which makes hole and which will lay eggs inside and will make worms inside. That is much more easy to crack actually. So they like the one which is having the weevils actually, weevil infested hardtack. That is the story. Anyway, they don't have any access to fresh vegetables or fruits, either hardtack and this kind of salted meat. This is the food. They started getting scurvy. Until then, there is no scurvy. As I said, until then, people were traveling through the coast, actually, near to the coast. And they have access. Every time they can touch the land and get some food, actually, fresh food. So scurvy, this is very, very lethal disease actually. Scurvy means you lose your fleshes actually everywhere. This is the kind of you will lose soft tissues like gum, then also internal organs, and you get this kind of lesions which I have shown, and finally people die out of a multiple organ failure. This is usually the case. Usually heart failure, or these are the final cause for death in this case. About 2 million sailors have died because of scurvy. When Vasco da Gama came to India, he started with 170 people. By the time he reached Good Hope, he lost about 110. So this kind of ghost ships are very common actually in seas those times. Ghost ship means no one is there. Everyone died actually. Ship is still floating for years actually. Finally it will disintegrate. These are called ghost ships. And people were not ready to sail, to be a sailor actually. So then they have to use press gang. I mean, compulsory, like military, compulsory service actually, ship service. That's how they get people for this ship, sailors. So Magellan, he is the one who did circumnavigation of the world. He started with 270 people in 1519, and he reached Philippines in 27th April 1521. He was killed there actually by the localites. Later his people came back, some of them. 18 survived actually. Started with 270, 18 survived. 95% of his crew died because of scurvy. These are just few examples for the seriousness of scurvy. Yeah, this I have already mentioned. Why scurvy was not a major problem before? Because we were using this kind of smaller ships, smaller boats, which were traveling through the coastal region actually, not very far from the coast. So there was no issue with the fresh food. Now, cause of scurvy, there are some clues actually. Richard Hawkins, he was an admiral of British Navy. He once stated that in his lifetime he has seen at least 10,000 men died out of scurvy. And he also said some lime juice could have helped them. Later in 1601, this is the first fleet of English East India Company. First voyage actually, led by Captain James Lancaster. He started with 4 ships. His flagship is a Dragon. He was in Dragon actually. There are 3 more ships. He made sure that whoever gets the symptoms of scurvy, he gave 3 spoons of lemon juice daily. By the time he reached Good Hope, no one died in the flagship where he was in because he gave lemon juice. In the other 3 ships, not many people were surviving. Very few people were left. All died actually in the other 3 ships. That was an early indication that this lemon juice has something to do with scurvy actually, or it can help cure scurvy. In 1617, there was a book written by Woodward. It's called Surgeon's Mate. He described lemon juice for scurvy actually. This can cure scurvy. There were other books also later. And in 17th century again, people were trying to explore the southern hemisphere. I mean, coming down actually, the Europe is on top, right? So they want to come the southern side of the globe actually. Tasman, Abel Tasman is from Netherlands, a Dutch person. He wanted to see the terra incognita Australia. That means the unknown land of Australia. So they know there is some big land, Australia. They call it as New Holland actually. They are Holland, but if they find it's New Holland. Australia was not found. Australia says there is some knowledge that there is something called a big land is there. So he has going to find out that Tasman actually. Actually, this is his route. Actually, I have shown in the red actually. So he has gone around Australia. Unfortunately, he could not see Australia. He went through a small island there that is called Tasmania now actually, after his name. So he went to this Tasmania, currently it is Tasmania, and he circumvented actually, he went around Australia and came back actually. And nearly half of his men died due to scurvy again. Everybody, I mean, whoever goes those time, a major percentage of sailors would die because of scurvy. Why they have gone is, of course, they have want to grab this spice business also. That is another reason, not only to find new land. And in 1747, it was the first controlled clinical study about scurvy, which happened in a ship actually. And this was led by a Scottish naval surgeon called James Lind. What he has done is, he had about 12 people affected with scurvy, showed symptoms of scurvy. So he divided into 6 groups, 6 into 2, actually in each group 2 people. And he gave different items actually. So first 2 people got cider, apple cider. The other 2 got vinegar actually, pure vinegar, acetic acid. The next 2 people got, unfortunately, sulfuric acid. The next pair got seawater, and next pair got some decoction, some spice decoction actually. And the last pair got 2 orange and 1 lemon every day. The last group who received 2 orange and lemon survived. In 7 days they have gotten rid of their scurvy. Later, he has given these 2 others, except the sulfuric acid fellow, who have died actually by the time. So this is the first clinical trial, you can say, the first recorded clinical trial, and to find that yes, there is something in lemon. Then the question is why it was not acted upon or used routinely. Even later, after Lind also, this was not effectively practiced. Even after that, people used to die. Of course, majority did not believe. Even in our system, it's like that. If something new comes, people are not ready to accept. Majority did not believe this, actually. Believing science is a problem for people, not only today, then also. So that was one. Then logistical problem is there, of course, it's very difficult to keep fresh citrus or lemon in the sea, right? It's difficult. After a few days, it'll go bad. Green plants you can grow, but that means you are occupying space. You can grow citrus or even ginger or other sources of vitamin C in the shade, but every inch of space is very important actually. You want to bring some material, which is money. So what they have done is, they have taken more people actually. People's life has no worth. Considering 50% would die, you take extra cargo, extra sailors that time. Anyway, 50% of them will die and you have enough space for the commodity to be brought back. So this is what they have done. Human life was very cheap that time. This guy, James Cook, he was actually a real hero of the sea actually. In his voyages, none died because of scurvy. He has taken several voyages, several travels. None has died. First travel as a young boy was to Canada actually, and he found all this inside this bay actually. So he found many islands there in Canada, and no one died. And he studied a solar eclipse there. So he was interested in science also. That's why he is fellow of Royal Society actually. He was awarded for fellow of Royal Society later. Then he was given the charge of, he was made the commander of ship Endeavour. Endeavour has to chart Southern Sea actually, to see Australia and other regions. But his appointment order says that to investigate new plants, animals, to make astronomical observation, transit of Venus. These are the points he has to worry about in his travels. Actually, that was not the reason. It is to capture new land. That is a political reason, actually. Especially to find Terra Australia's incognita, or the Australia. So, Captain Cook, his motto is he should have a healthy crew, otherwise he cannot do this one. So, he ensured that everyone should be clean, everyone should take bath, and they should be always have proper clothing and fumigate their clothing, actually. Smoke the clothing, and to ensure that no fungus or something is there. And they should have a balanced diet. Every day they were given sauerkraut. Sauerkraut means cabbage, fermented cabbage. Even that's a dish in Germany, for example, sauerkraut. So that is rich in vitamin. So he has given sauerkraut of compulsorily everyone. And wherever possible, he touched the land. Wherever he sees some land, he touched and he took some grasses. Even if it is grasses, he made sure that people ate some grasses. Leafy vegetables have this vitamin C or other vitamins also. So that is also he has done. And unfortunately, when he reached Australia, his ship got stuck into this coral reefs, actually. There is a barrier reef, which he found, of course, around Australia, which is a very difficult terrain to cross and reach the land, actually. It's full of sharp corals, actually. And his ship was stuck there, actually. And that got a hole, and a lot of water was coming. And about 23 hours, they had to physically remove water to avoid sinking. 23 hours continuously they have done. Fortunately, it slid off, and later they landed Australia. And if it was not a proper, healthy sailors, he could have died there. But they have survived just because they were healthy, they were having vitamin C, sources of vitamin C. So later, these are the routes Captain Cook has taken. The first one is in Indivaris, of course, in 1768. That is the red arrow, actually. He started from Plymouth, and he went actually westward, and then came from the east side, actually. First round is that. Then second one is the green one, that is in 1772. That is called Expedition Resolution. Then that went to eastward and came from westward. Again, the next resolution is in 1776. Again, went through east direction, and came from westward. And that time he found American side also. He went north from New Zealand and found, for example, Hawaii Island. And finally, in that voyage, he was killed by the people in Hawaii Island, actually, the localites. This was his last one. So he has made a lot of discoveries. He's the one first to circumnavigate New Zealand. He went around New Zealand. And barrier reef, of course, I have mentioned, he is the first one to discover that there is a barrier reef around Australia. And first crossing of Antarctic Circle in Antarctica. Then first starting of the northern coast of Pacific Ocean. As I said, he went up actually from New Zealand. And discovery of Hawaiian Islands. And after all, not a single man to scurvy. That is his credit, actually. Not even a single man to scurvy. Of course, he was a hero indeed, as I mentioned. And he was given the highest honor, that is a Copley Gold Medal, for his demonstration that scurvy can be avoided on long ocean voyages. After this, in 1787 onwards, British started ensuring that everyone who goes in ship will be given lime juice. After 40 years of that RCT which we have talked about, Lin's experiment. So it was, people were reluctant to take any new science. But finally, yes, Captain Cook also has shown he could save everyone in his ship through this scientific practice. Actually, vitamin C is a very simple sugar-like molecule, vitamin C ascorbic acid. Actually isolated by Zen Gyorgy. He was a professor in Cambridge University He isolated this material from a flesh, actually, bovine adrenal cortex, in 1928. And Harvard, the chemist, his friend actually, from University of Birmingham, determined its structure. And both were awarded Nobel Prize in 1937, one for medicine, the other one for chemistry. And usually this is synthesized from glucose in any animal except primates and few guinea pigs and some fruit bat. In all other animals, this is biosynthesized from glucose through a series of oxidation steps. Unfortunately, we don't have one of the enzymes in this series actually, that is gluconolactam oxidase. That's why we cannot make, our body cannot make, or even other primates cannot make vitamin C. Now we are synthesizing vitamin C at least 50,000 tons annually, and that is used for preserving food, etc., and also for supplementing vitamin C for vitamin C deficient people, etc. For example, Clostridium botulinum gives the botulinum toxin, which is very, very toxic material. The most toxic material known to humankind is this. About 1 gram can kill about 1.25 crores of people actually. That much dangerous material, which is botulinum toxin. So when vitamin C is there, this bacteria cannot grow and produce this toxin, for example. So this is used as a preservative now. So the question is, how it has changed the history, you know that already. If the value of ascorbic acid is known in olden times, world today might have been very, very different actually. Let us see what. Portuguese, who explored the sea first, right, who came to Kerala, for example, might have explored Pacific Ocean. They must have gone to the other side and they must have taken the Australia or other side, etc. Before James Cook. British would not have any role in the map actually. James Cook came very, very late. This is in 1498. Portuguese, now Portuguese might be the language spoken in Fiji, Hawaii, Brazil, Portuguese, etc. If this had happened. This did not happen, unfortunately. Magellan, if Magellan knew about this lime juice, he could have completed his trip and got the medal. He got the medal posthumously, but he could have completed. He could not have stopped at Philippines actually and got killed. And he could have established a Spanish monopoly of spices actually, than Duchess. Then Tasman, the guy who found Tasmania, he could have found Australia and he could have gotten control of Australia. The British, as I said, British was coming very late to the Pacific. They would not have had any more land actually. So British could not have major role in the world history if this knowledge was there before. So this was all stories actually, right? This is all our if this happened. That did not happen. Nevertheless, ascorbic acid deserves a prominent place in the history, as you know. Next one is, of course, sucrose, our table sugar. Next molecule which changed the history. In olden times, this is, of course, this grows only in tropical region. This is the sugar cane. Nowadays, you can make sugar from beetles or sugar beetles, or like beetroot, a variety of beetroot, you can say. So that started very late, in 1750. But people in India and in some part of China, people used to make sugar, the raw sugar, from sugar cane actually, from BC onwards. Around 4,000 years BC, Indians and Chinese used to make sugar, the crude form of sugar from sugar cane. For Europeans, honey was the only source of sugar, sweetness, as a sweetener, until then. And when Chinese came, actually the crystalline form, how to make the crystalline form, we only knew actually, Indians only knew. But Chinese travelers came to India and they learned this technique, how to crystallize, make the juice and set aside and make the crystals of this granular form actually. They learned from India. Huan Sang and Fahian, for example, when they visited India, they learned this kind of techniques from India. And this reached the Middle East also. We had a good trade relationship with the Middle East. That is again through the small boats they used to come actually. Arabians used to come. So this knowledge has gone there. Middle East also had access to sugar from India. And in Cyprus is again a tropical region, right? There people have started planting this plant actually, that is sugarcane, from 10th century onwards. That's a very small island. Cyprus is a very small island. That's not sufficient to cater all the world. So Cyprus I have shown in that sea actually very small. In the Mediterranean Sea you can see a small island Cyprus, which is hot actually, very close to the Tropic of Cancer I can see. Then this sugar reached Europe also. Again, Venice became rich with sugar also, later with sugar. First with pepper, then with sugar also. So when the Crusaders returned after their war, they usually take sugar from Arabian countries. And Venice was again very rich because of selling sugar. 15th century, Portuguese occupied a small island actually, Madeira, which I have shown with a balloon actually in the map. And that is suitable again, hot enough, the place is hot enough for growing sugarcane. They started growing sugarcane there. But the problem is, it's very labor intensive cultivation. You need people to cultivate sugarcane. Of course, the solution is Africans, slaves. So they bought slaves to cultivate sugars in Madeira by Portuguese. Other side, if you see, American side, every European country had their small land, small or big land in American side actually. These are different colonies I have shown. French colonies I have shown in red, then British colonies I have shown in brown. Again, Portuguese colony I have shown, for example, Brazil and few parts of Africa. Then Spanish again, the whole of South America and some part of North America, then several parts of Africa. These all are their places under their control at different time actually. And this land is suitable for sugarcane cultivation, also coffee cultivation. So when Christopher Columbus came, 1492, he came to an island called Hispaniola. Now it is Haiti and Dominican Republic, two parts actually. I have shown again in the map, Haiti and the Dominican Republic is that Hispaniola. That time about 10 lakh, 1 million people were there in that island. After 50 years, only 200 people were left. 10 lakhs to 200. What happened is they killed. The Europeans killed the natives for land actually to cultivate sugarcane. Because they were very weak people actually. They could not work. They could not work in the farms actually. They were weak people. And they also got new disease because the Europeans came with several diseases actually. So they are new to this one and they died because of disease also. As I said, they were not resistant to disease and they were also killed forcefully to get the land to cultivate sugarcane. Then who can work? Who is well built and very powerful? Africans. Again, Africans are there. So let us go to Africa and bring people. Every European country brought a lot of slaves from Africa and transported to Americas. I mean, both Americas, that side I am saying. Millions of Africans were transported. And so many of them died again during the travel, very long travel actually, through sea. Who cares about the life of a black African, right? So 10 million Africans were brought as slaves to America. 10 million means 1 crore. So many of them died, of course. And they usually used to work on sugarcane. Brazil, for example, in Brazil, Cuba, etc. Then also in coffee, plantations. 2/3 of them died on the journey. One African slave was able to produce about 4 tons of sugar each year. So if he lives for 2 years, that's enough. So usually every slave would live for 4 years or so in that average. That's what. So it's a very profitable business to transport. So this is the route actually. From Africa, you can see the arrows to different American countries, North and South American countries. People are transported for working in sugarcane plantations and in coffee plantations. 16th century, sugar became a very popular sweetener because this is much better than honey. And then again, the popularity became much better. Now people started preserving jams, for example. Fruit you can preserve by putting sugar actually. Jams, marmalades, jellies, etc. you can make and preserve fruit. This is the per capita consumption of sugar in England actually. In 1700 AD, it was only 4 pounds. And in 1780, it was 12 pounds actually. It increased. In 80 years, it became threefold actually. In 1790, it became 16 pounds. In 1964, it is 100 pounds actually, annually, each British. This is just a number for British. This is true for other countries also. So people started eating more sugar actually, as you can see. See, this is the triangle, very important triangle, right? So the humans are transported from Africa to America as slaves. And they produce products from the coffee and sugarcane. The sugar goes to Europe and they refine further actually and sell back to these countries. Rum is a byproduct of sugar industry that goes back to Africa, and also the finished product goes to Africa. This is a good business model actually. This triangle, slaves from this side use them, the others' land actually. America is not their land. Use other people, others' land, make profit and become rich. Most of the Europeans did that. So the triangle state started made a lot of Europeans very rich. This was the reason. But it was an unlucky situation for African slaves. They were resistant to disease. That means they don't get disease. That means they were asked to work a lot. Today, this is the world map. This is the percentage of Africans in America. Different countries actually. You can see it's a big list. So about in that particular first one is Barbuda and Antigua. About 90% are black. Similarly, several other countries, more than 50% are black. All these black came from Africa, transported. So we have transported people. That's a good thing actually. I mean, now everywhere people are mixed. That's a good thing, but for a different reason. So this is somebody's quote I am reading here. This is written by Mins. He says, I do not know if coffee and sugar are essential to happiness of Europe, but I know well that these two products have accounted for the unhappiness of two great regions of the world. America has been depopulated. They killed everybody in the land actually. Depopulated so as to have the land on which to plant. And Africa has been depopulated so as to have the people for cultivation. Now, they were not very racist actually to start with. It was only they were muscular and they were ready to work and they can work. There was no color discrimination. That's what some historian says. The color discrimination came later. Actually, the class difference came after this actually, as a consequence of this. They would have gone anywhere actually. If there is no people, they would have gone to moon also to find people to get work. So next was India. India and China are more populated. They did not come because Africa is closer to transport. They would have come, and they have come. And that's why in Mauritius, Fiji, Guyana, Suriname, Trinidad and Tobago, people speak Hindi. There are Hindi-speaking people actually there. Our people are also transported for these cultivations. So yes, sugar affected the destiny of countries and continents. If the demand for sugar was not there, our world today would have been very different actually. The Africans will be in Africa. There is no such movement would happen. Why? Why to ship them? Of course, it has spurred a lot of economic growth in 18th century. So that's a molecule to be credited for the current state of the world. The last molecule I will be taking today is ammonia. Nitrogen is very essential for our life. About 3.2% of our body weight is nitrogen, as protein, amino acids, and also nuclear bases, DNA, right? DNA nuclear bases are made out of nitrogen. And also many other nitrogenous products are there in our body. For example, many neurotransmitters are nitrogen based. Many vitamins are. And atmosphere contains a lot of nitrogen. As a gas, the air we breathe has about close to 80% of nitrogen, but that is a gaseous form. We cannot tap that. If we breathe, we don't take nitrogen through by breathing, right? Nitrogen will go back actually. Only oxygen our lungs can take and process it, not nitrogen. Nitrogen cannot be absorbed as a gas. That's a useless form for us. How nitrogen comes to our body is through this, lightning and rain. During lightning, nitrogen and oxygen will react. It's a light activated reaction. It will become nitric oxide. It will get further oxidized to nitrogen dioxide. When rain comes, it will dissolve and form nitric acid and nitrous acid, and that will come to the soil. And that plant will absorb, and that plant product we will eat. This is how we get nitrogen. This is the nitrogen fixation diagram. As you can see in the right side, the nitrogen through rains initially, and that get assimilated in plants by absorption as nitrate. Also, there are bacteria which can take nitrogen directly from atmosphere, nitrogen fixing bacteria. Some leguminous plants have this root nodules which has a symbiotic bacteria inside the nodules, and they can also fix nitrogen. That's why people say you should have a intercropping with leguminosa plant, legumes, to increase the nitrogen content in the soil. So yeah, that is another way to get nitrogen to the soil, then which we use, and again it's a cycle. That time, this is a heap, maybe the screen is not very clear actually. It's a pile of bison skulls in America, 1870. People are standing on it. This is for making manure actually. If you mill it, actually you will get powder, which is a nitrogenous material. This used to be our fertilizer for nitrogen. Also bones of other animals. In 1909, Haber found a new technique to make ammonia from nitrogen and hydrogen. So if you mix nitrogen and hydrogen in presence of iron and heat at very high temperature and pressure, you get ammonia. This is called Haber process of ammonia. And this has changed the world actually. And later Bosch, another person, again German, he found a better method for industrial scale application. This is in the lab scale. First one is in the lab scale. And the other person, Carl Bosch, he made it in a scaled up manner. Both of them got Nobel Prize for the discovery in different years actually. So today we produce fertilizer from this particular process, the discovery of ammonia, Haber process of discovery. About 50% of or 3.8% in you and me are from this Haber process today, everybody's. If Haber process is not there, 1/8 of the current population only will be alive. 7/8 would die. Of course, this had major influence of war because this has led to ammonium nitrate, which is an explosive people have used for war actually. to kill people during the world wars. Yeah, this is what I'm mentioning here. So Haber process impacted, it has done good for Germany actually, for war actually. Ammonium nitrate they could get access to easily. It killed many people actually. It was very difficult for Allied forces to fight against Germany. So we started making fertilizer out of this. You can see this is the time in x-axis and how much we have made in y-axis. 1909 is the discovery of ammonia. Soon we started making fertilizer, and this is the consumption of fertilizer actually. 300 million tons per annum in 2000 actually. Now you can see the production of various crops. Again, year in x-axis, production in y-axis, in a ton per hectare actually. So oats, for example, also barley, you can see from 1900 to 2000 there is a huge jump in the production. This is another crop. This is in US, the previous one was in UK. This is corn, rice and wheat. Again you can see from 1900 there is a sudden jump in the production. And that jump, you can see here, this is the human population today. Now it is 8.1 billion. This is an old data, slightly old data. 8.1 billion. When this started, until 1804, we were only 1 billion, 100 crores. In 1927, we were only 2 billion actually. That is the time we started using fertilizer. And now you see the jump is so fast. Every 10 years, almost 10 years, we are running 1 billion people actually. In next 10 years, we'll be 9 billion actually. And this has happened because of that Haber process of discovery. And this has a huge impact in the current population and our welfare actually. This you can see 100 years of Haber-Bosch process. This is a graph you can see. The dotted line, the black dotted line is the percentage of world population fed by Haber process. Almost 50% today. And you can see if there was no Haber process, that is the brown line, dotted lines, not really the broken lines. If there is no Haber process today, our population will be less than 3 billion, 300 crores. So now we are 8.1 because of Haber process. This is a paper actually came in Nature Geoscience. So yes, it's true, millions have died, but billions have been fed actually. So we are being fed by this particular process, Haber-Bosch process. And this has literally changed the world. So that's the end of my talk today. These are the references from which I have gathered this information. And finally, I thank you all for your patient listening. Thank you.